Well, the Matildas have been back in action as the SheBelieves Cup is two-thirds of the way over as the national team suffered a 4-0 loss to Japan and a 2-1 loss to the USA. And I believe none of us are any closer to answering the question what she actually believes in. Although if you've been watching the Matildas, it's not playing good football. Elsewhere, the young Matildas are absolutely dominating the Pacific Guys Four Nations. We look ahead to the Matildas game against Colombia on Thursday morning. We discuss the ongoing Canberra situation and ask the question, does anyone actually want to celebrate Pride on this episode of the Dubcast, part of the Roundball Australia podcast network? Burke, how's your last week been?
It's been good. Been hanging out for this international break, and then when I got it, I was like, actually, maybe you can have it. Maybe you can take it back. Maybe I don't want this. No more international football. We've surpassed the need for international football. But we're here. We go again, as they say, and go again we will.
We will indeed, which is what Sienna Silvestre has been doing over the last week in Canberra for the young Matildas, just absolutely scoring non-stop bangers, which I believe she's just done again at the time of this recording.
Just going to say, just watched that. Unreal goal.
Absolutely going nuts. So as we start this recording, the under-20s are in action against Thailand's under-20 side of the Pacific Oz Four Nations, up 4-2 in the 78th minute. But you'll know that by the time you listen to this. But in terms of the senior Matildas, we have to start with Japan 4, Australia 0. Burke, what the hell was this?
It wasn't good, is what I can say. Yeah, turns out having a starting centre back pairing of Alana Kennedy, who hasn't played in months, with Claire Hunt, who is coming off pretty average, less than average appearance against Arsenal, isn't a great idea. Who would have thought? Not me, that's for sure. I didn't think that. You can't see that reflected in the Twitter posts that I've made at all. And unfortunately, it seems it also wasn't Mackenzie Arnold's day either. It wasn't anyone's day. No one was having a good day. I wasn't having a good day. I was at work when this game was on, but I did catch bits and pieces of it. No one looked like they were having a good time. And I don't know what she believes. To be quite real with you, I am not a she that believes. I think I made this joke on Beyond 90, but it deserves repeating. I don't believe. I'm not a she that believes.
I'm not a she who believes either. I am a they who believes, but I'm not a she who believes.
If you're a she who believes, I'm like, kudos to you, because I'm not one of you.
So, this game, the first half, Australia conceded 2 goals. First one, Alana Kennedy and Mackenzie Arnold, both of whom are in NWSL preseason, got caught out, but sort of at fault team goal, because how it was allowed to get to that situation is anyone's guess. And then Claire Hunt got her signals mixed up with Alana Kennedy and came across when she probably should have stayed on Mina Tanaka. And then it didn't even get better from there. It was no subs to start the second half from Tom Samani. They couldn't handle the press from Japan at all. They barely had any possession in the attacking half in any meaningful area. Didn't get their first shot off until the 87th minute, which wasn't even on target because it hit the crossbar, which does not count as an on-target shot. And 18 shots with 8 on target for Japan. Australia finished with a total of 41% possession. I mean, this is just... To best sum up this game in 2 minutes, just watch the first 2 minutes of the second half. So as Australia, they kicked off, they got the ball into Japan's half, but the press was so instantaneous that the Tillies were forced back beyond the halfway line and turned it over not long afterwards. And that was just basically rinse and repeat for the entire 90 minutes.
It was not good. I don't want to see that game ever again. Yeah.
So I made the mistake of going back and watching the mini match and regretted it almost immediately.
Why would you do that?
I wanted to see if I could spot something that might better explain the game that I didn't see the first time around, and I did not.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked to hear that. But unfortunately, it seems to be the case with every game that we play against any kind of team that actually presses, in that we don't know what to do, or that because we insist on, playing out from the back, we get caught out a million, trillion, billion times. Yeah, so maybe we should either, I don't know, learn how to deal with presses like that, or if we're not going to learn how to deal with presses like that, stop playing out from the back, maybe? I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. Just some suggestions.
I mean, they're certainly good suggestions, and then that sort of brings us nicely into USA 2, Australia 1. A lot of changes to the starting side. Charlie Grant, Winona Heatley, Holly McNamara comes in, and Tegan Micah comes in. I was about to say I'm missing one, but no, it was Tegan
How
Micah
could
who
you
was
miss
perhaps the most
her?
important inclusion.
How could you?
Yes, I know. How could me? I'm going to get very angry. I'm sure there's a Tegan Micah stan who's going to get very angry that I hesitated for a second to include Tegan Micah.
It's me on a burner account.
Oh no! This won't be on any sort of burner account. No! This is I know exactly who I'm referring to here.
Never mind. It'll be them, and it will be me also on a burner account, so there'll be two people. Sorry. Sorry,
But
don't.
no.
I mean, no
We do
disrespect
love
to that one Tegan Micah stan. Good for you. Someone has to do it.
no, we do love Tegan Micah here on the Dubcast. But Australia, they conceded 42 seconds in, which gave some very unfortunate flashbacks to a game in November of 2021 in Sydney that I was in attendance for. Jess Nash's one and only cap, because her and Courtney Nevin were thrown to the wolves of the then number one ranked side in the world, the USA, who might still be the number one ranked side. I've lost track of the FIFA rankings at the moment. They nearly conceded again in the 9th minute. Flag was up for offside, and I've never loved an offside flag more in my entire life. 35th minute before they got a shot off, Holly Mack, her first start in 1,122 days, so absolutely fantastic to see Holly Mack, starting again for the national side. But for me, I think the positives to take from this game, at least in the first half anyway, were it looked similar to how the Matildas had played the Americans before, in the sense that there is a clear quality gap, but it's not something that you couldn't be chased down, Burke.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the US were also playing a very experimental lineup, let's say, because I did not know who those people were. I'd never seen some of those people before in my life. But good for them, I guess. Yeah, we looked a lot better. I think the main thing was that they looked like they actually cared. They looked like they actually wanted a result, which I don't know if that's just because of what had happened or because we were playing the US, but yeah.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because Lockie and I had this discussion in one of our reaction videos. Is the game against Japan saw what, at the moment at least, is close to, if not what you would consider a full strength starting side for the Matildas, and yet they looked like they'd never played football together before. They looked like just a side that was like a fish out of water, that hadn't really done anything at this level before. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's time, and I understand a very small sample size of one game, but if we need to rethink what the Matildas' best lineup looks like, Burke?
I think it never hurts. I think doing a huge reshuffle and perhaps benching some people, even if it's just for another game or two, it doesn't hurt. If anything, it'll be a bit of a wake up call in that, you don't have a guaranteed starting position just because you're in the camp. Um, so yeah, I don't see why they shouldn't do it. And considering we don't have a coach, what is there to lose? What, what, what is there to lose? The game? We've done that already. We've done that twice. I think we can stand to do it another time. I'm so scared to play South Korea. I'm so scared. Oh my god.
Yeah, that could end the Matildas hype train in this country, honestly, if things aren't careful. Like, and I know that's a little bit hyperbole, but
It is mostly because everyone's kind of banking on that being the point that Sam comes back. So, like,
okay, we touched on this in the reaction video we did immediately after the USA game, myself and Lockie Avil, and we'll link that in the description down below, as well as our reaction to the Japan game. And Lockie had an interesting take on it, which was, because I asked the question, is we got a lot of responses like, oh, Sam Kerr comes back, Sam Kerr comes back, Sam Kerr comes back, we're going to be fine. And I'm not convinced, in the sense that she's been out for probably almost 18 months now, give or take a couple of months. She, coming back from an ACL injury, those things aren't easy to come back from. I mean, Holly Max had to come back from 3 of them, and it's taken longer each time. Like, there's no guarantee she's going to be the Sam Kerr of old. At least certainly not in the immediate, return. And I'm not saying that she shouldn't be in this side. There's no way I'm saying that, because a fit and healthy Sam Kerr is easily one of, if not the best player the Matildas have. But should she just waltz back into this side, essentially, Burke? Or do we perhaps go with the front 3 that we've always gone with, and we can have discussions about whether Mary Fowler should take the spot of Hayley Raso later. But essentially one striker, it's Holly McNamara and Michelle Heyman, and Sam Kerr slowly builds her way back in that way, in a 3-striker system.
I don't think Sam Kerr waltzes her way back in, because I agree in that coming back from, well, I agree, it's a fact that coming back from an ACL can fundamentally change you as a player. But I think she definitely comes back. I was more so bringing this up in return to you saying it stops the fan train. It won't, because Sam Kerr coming back will bring the people's back. And I think it'll bring people back at a much bigger scale, if that makes sense. Because everyone and their mum knows who Sam Kerr is. So if they hear, oh, Sam Kerr's back with the Matildas, or I'll watch this game, I'll see Sam Kerr. But yeah, that everyone's going to be in for a bit of a rude awakening when they see her back for the national team the first time, because I don't think we won't be seeing a prime Sam Kerr. We may see prime Sam Kerr in the future, but I doubt that she'll be right back on at 100 immediately coming back. So,
yeah, I do tend to agree. I'm just imagining now it'll be like, so the best women's football solution I can come up with to this, or the best example I can come up with to this, because I don't want to mention the A-League men's show any more than I absolutely have to, is when Canada came to Australia in 2022, I want to say it was, just prior to the World Cup, in that sort of September or November, December windows, somewhere around there, late 2022, and I was sitting in the press box at the Sydney Football Stadium, and the entire time I was just waiting for Quinn. I was waiting for Quinn. Just come on the field. All I want is to watch Quinn play football with my own two eyes directly in front of me. And I had to wait until like the 70th or like 75th minute, somewhere around there, for them to come on. And like, I imagine that's sort of what it's going to be when Sam Kerr comes back, and everyone's just going to be disappointed when Sam Kerr comes back, and it's just like it's 5 minutes in game one and 10 minutes in game two if she plays this South Korea series in April, where it's just going to be like, we were sold Sam Kerr, we were told Sam Kerr was going to play, we want our money back. Like, just like that's just sort of like where my mind went to.
Yeah, yeah, no, I very much agree with that. Lots of people are going to be very surprised. They're going to be expecting Sam Kerr that scores like 4 goals in a game, but I do not believe that is what we will be getting. Maybe not for a
Yeah.
few more months.
Yeah, maybe towards the end of the year as we ramp up the Asian Cup preparations a little bit more. But back to this USA game, we go to the second half now. Honestly, probably the best 10 minutes of football the Matildas played was to start this second half. They got forward, they had some near chances, albeit without a shot on target, and that goes to our first listener question, which isn't a question in the traditional sense, in the sense that it came in the YouTube comments from our USA reactions video from Almost Clutch. On the second half start, that first 10 minutes was the only time all game, aside from immediately following the Heyman goal, that fans around me started to question the USA, yelling to the coach for subs, begging the team to be more aggressive. There was a real sense of, what the hell are we doing around the stadium for a bit? Australia was in full control until they ultimately weren't. I have questions still. Does Kerr actually solve this team's problems, or do the core issues run deeper? We sort of just discussed that. Obviously, a permanent coach is mandatory, but what do they actually need to do to fix these glaring issues? But, and I guess that gives us a good point to move back off the USA game. Again, we've discussed that already, myself and Lockie. Description, link in the description down below to check that. I know it's as simplistic as saying we just need a new coach to come in and make the tough calls, but is it really that simplistic? Or because it feels like there are some deeper lying issues that just aren't going to be solved regardless of who comes in.
I think a head coach with the right, what's the word that I'm looking for? A head coach with the right mentality could solve those, I guess, the deeper seated issues if they have the time and if they actually want to. Because you can get a hell of a lot out of this team, even without, looking behind the curtain, so to speak, which I feel like we kind of saw in the World Cup. If you put them in a do or die situation, they're not gonna die unless, they absolutely have to. So I think a new head coach could do that. And I completely understand Samani not wanting to be the person that makes those decisions because he's not the head coach. If they're going to make him the head coach, can they just do it already? Because I don't think I can wait for the Euros to come and go and me bank all my hopes on the England tanking it so that Weigman leaves. I can't do that. It's not good for my mental health. Please, spare head coach, Football Australia. I'm begging. Anything you have, spare head coach, give them to me. I'm literally like, I'm about ready to start like protesting outside the head. Well, if their offices weren't in Sydney, I would be out the front with like a picket sign. Head coach, where? Please give them to me. I know they've got something back there.
There's just like a head coach factory in the offices, and they're just waiting
Yeah,
for the right time to
to press the
unleash.
button. Yeah,
Yeah,
do it now. Do it yesterday. My God.
yeah,
It's all getting to this point and not having a head coach is unfortunately I I do understand there's only so many coaches in the women's game, but it's starting to look very amateur hour. because we knew Tony was leaving. We knew. Why didn't we have someone lined up?
Well, they did until said person signed a contract 1 month before Tony Gustafsson left the role. If only there was some sort of proactive action that could have been taken. I wonder.
Well, what can you do?
No. Anyway, let's move on before Burke just throttles me through the computer screen. It's interesting, the idea around Tom Samani not wanting to make the tough calls, and I think that goes back to where we saw the first lineup, the Japan game, where it was your standard stock, tried, true, tested Matildas starting 11 that we all know and sometimes we love, sometimes hate. To quote Gennaro Gattuso, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe.
Exactly.
I'll let you figure out what the last word of that one is if you don't know already, because I'm not saying that on this podcast. But you know, Samani spoke after the USA game, and you know, the idea of Tegan Micah being in the number one spot, and said, I think the battle for the starting spot has been close for some time, and there's been times where Tegan Micah has been the number one. The situation at the moment is that Tegan's been playing week in and week out in the WSL and performing really well, whereas Mackenzie hasn't played and is barely back in preseason training, particularly for a goalkeeper. It's not like an outfield player where you can run around. For a goalkeeper, they need to get matches under the belt before they can come in at this level. Which begs the question, why start Mackenzie Arnold? Why start Alana Kennedy? Like, why start two players in NWSL preseason against Japan if that's the response you're going to give when asked about Tegan Micah coming in straight after the USA game, Tom? Why? Just why?
I wish I could answer that, but yeah. I do think now is the time to try with Tegan Micah as number one, which isn't to say that Mackenzie Arnold is a bad goalkeeper or that she hasn't been good. I mean, the World Cup was insane. If you need to, if you want to question Mackenzie Arnold's goalkeeping abilities, go watch the game against France. And then if you still think she's bad, just don't talk to me about it because I'm not going to entertain you. Sorry. But she is not in fantastic form right now. That much is kind of obvious, unfortunately. Like we've said, she's in preseason. Tegan Micah is not in preseason. She has been playing many games. I think now's the time. I don't think waiting around and continuing to give Macca more chances in goal when you could have Tegan Micah in, not making half as many errors and making more saves. That's what we should be doing.
Yeah, I don't want to say that the idea of a goalkeeper not playing and still being a country's number one can't work, because we've seen it before plenty of times. To use a local example, if you look at Matt Ryan for the Socceroos, has famously spent so much time not playing football, but came in and absolutely performed when he had to for the Socceroos. So it's not that it can't work, it's just when you've got a potential number one playing week in, week out, there's no reason not to play her in this case with Tegan Micah. I agree. I think she has to be the number one going forward. Certainly, at least in the game against Colombia on Thursday and the two South Korea games. Knock on wood, pending fitness, because I think that's the only reason that Tegan Micah is not currently the number one, is because she has had a horror run with injuries throughout her career so far, which begs to the other tough call, and I sort of teased this about 10 minutes ago, is I know Samani doesn't want to necessarily rock the boat too much because it's not his position per se to be rocking the boat at this point with the interim tag on. Do we have, like Gareth Taylor has figured out how to get the best out of Mary Fowler, right? And we've had two coaches now, Tom Samani and Tony Gustafsson, who have not been able to get the best out of Mary Fowler international level. And to be fair to them, it's taken Gareth Taylor nearly 2 years to work out how to get the best out of Mary Fowler. But he's figured it out. It's at right wing. Does the question have to be asked, if not by Tom, at least certainly by the new coach, does Fowler have to start at right wing in place of Hayley Raso, who becomes a bench option, essentially? Or do you sort of rotate those two in and out of the right wing spot?
I think rotating could be fun. I think it could be an interesting way to keep teams on their toes because anyone, well, you're not usually rotating defenders that frequently, but if you do that with your right wings, it's going to be a bit harder for your defenders to work because they've got to prep and play against two players instead of one. Um, Feasible options, but I think getting Mary out on the wing is something we absolutely need to start doing in whatever shape or form it can happen in. Not on the left side, though. I'm not that desperate yet. We'll see.
Give it another 6 months.
I may change my mind on that one.
So, I tend to agree. It sort of like reminds me of when you go back a couple of years, Hayley Raso starting, Courtney Vine coming in off the bench, just absolutely terrorising with her speed, and that's a real luxury to have at an international level. So if you could start with Fowler, then bring Raso on, it's good, which might leave room for a player like Daniela Gallage to take that number 10 role that Mary Fowler's currently occupying, where she's not necessarily playing her best football. But the idea of trying to get the best out of Fowler, and I know this isn't quite an apples to apples situation here, but it very much reminded me of the discussion that we've had for the last 5 years around Alex Chidiac, where it seems the only coach who can get anything out of her is Jeff Hopkins, which is almost criminal for a player of Chidiac's quality, Burke.
Yeah, very much so. I don't know what went wrong with the Chidiac sort of, I guess, experiment because she is a fantastic player. So long as, you're getting the best out of her. And she's a player that absolutely wants to give her best for any team she's on, whatever position, time, place that may be. So it is, I do always, yeah, I do wish we could work that one out because she is just an absolute weapon. So, and I mean that in a good sense, in case anyone misunderstands.
Yeah, so hopefully that is something else that the new coach, whenever this mythical new coach actually arrives, will be able to sort out, because we need more Alex Chidiac in the national team. Looking ahead to the game against Colombia, Burke, what do you want to see both from a lineup perspective and a tactical perspective in this game?
I would like to see a centre back pairing of Steph Catley and Tash Pryor, or even Winnie Heatley. Whatever happens, I would like to see that. But otherwise, I quite like the lineup that we went with, except maybe we do that rotational business with Mary and Razzo out on the wing. Tactically, I would love for us not to concede in the first like 5-10 minutes of the game. I think that would be really fun. I think that'd be really cute for us. So if we could do that, that would be really good. Otherwise, maybe scoring a goal would also be good. 2 even. I don't want to get carried away though. Win with all of my wants. So let's stick with not conceding in the first 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that feels like a good goal to set. Baby steps, right? For me, I like the idea of the back four being Grant, Catley. You could give me Tash Pry, you could give me Winona Heatley. I wouldn't object to either of those two being there. Ellie Carpenter speaks for herself. But again, if you wanted to give her a rest, I wouldn't say no to Caitlin Torpey at right back or Charlie Grant at right back. Caitlin Torpey on the left. Actually, you know what? Give me Steph Catley on the left. Give me Tash Pryor, Winona Heatley at centre back. Give me who did I just say? Give me Charlie Grant on the right. Tegan Micah in goals. I think that's a very good defensive line there. Kyra Cooney Cross. Katrina Gorry. Pick your poison as to who you want in midfield. I think I definitely want to see Holly Mack continue at striker. Hopefully against an opposition that might allow her, to get more than a handful of touches on the ball. But to her credit, in that game against the USA, she stayed in position. She didn't drift back and get caught out, and was there for when the handful of opportunities actually came to her. So that's something I'd like to see again. I want to see a little bit more rotation there, just overall from Samani. And then, can Australia actually beat Colombia, Burke? Because I fear that the best case result here is going to be a draw. A high-scoring draw, but a draw nonetheless.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we're beating them given the way that we have been playing, even though we have played like it was a lot better against the US. I'm not sold on a win, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be a fun game to watch, nonetheless. There's a lot of talented players in that Colombian side. And just a reminder that you can tune in to the Dubcast YouTube channel, and not immediately after that game. We're not that quick. But, in the hours after that game, we'll have our reaction video from that game up, hopefully within the hour after full time. Right. Burke, I think I'll give you the choice. Do we want to go to the APL announcing its Pride celebrations, or do we want to go to whatever the hell is going on at Canberra next?
Let's go Canberra.
Okay, so last week it was announced that the expansion side on the A-League men's competition for Canberra has been pushed back yet another year. It's almost like, until recently, that mythical national second tier that Football Australia was looking at on the men's side, where the long-standing joke was the NST is coming in whatever the current year is, +2. Which seems to be the case with this Canberra expansion side. But then an interesting article popped up in the Canberra Times, which saw former Mariners owner and chairman Richard Peel offer to invest up to $250,000 to save Canberra United, but with a catch. And that catch was that Football Australia matches it dollar for dollar. He was quoted as saying, "The organisation who should step up to fund Canberra are the only organisation who stands to benefit from a presence in Canberra, and that's Football Australia. FA are the only organisation who can recoup any investment into the women's game. To be clear, if I put $250,000 in, it's philanthropy. If the FA puts $250,000 in, they have a chance of monetising that. Female players deserve better, but the players, keep asking owners to fund it. FA have to step up, not the owners who are already struggling." We talked about Richard Peel's comments in our season preview episodes when he was basically saying there's no money in the women's game, there's no chance to recoup transfer money, and he sort of basically doubled down on those comments here. And I said at the time those comments didn't make sense. I also said that when those comments were announced in May last year at that time as well. And I'm going to re-emphasize those again. Richard Peel, you do not know what you were talking about. There is money in the women's game. We've just seen Carly Johnson go to this new Northern Super League today, the new Canadian Women's Professional League, who seemingly, based on the little research I've done, have a salary cap that is already triple the size of the A-League Women's in its first year of existence. We've literally just seen, 2 months ago, Naomi Girma go to Chelsea for and I have the number here actually, so I make sure I've got the right number up, $1 1.1 million US dollars, the new highest transfer for a women's footballer. You know, we already talked about Barbara Banda, Rachel Kundanagi, Kira Walsh, who's takes up spots 4 and 5 on this list, by the way. Um, you know, like the numbers are there. It's a longer season, Burke. You know, and I don't think it's any coincidence that the longer A League women's season has suddenly brought about transfer fees because clubs want players now. They're not happy to wait a month. They don't want to wait 3 months. They want them now.
Yeah, there's clearly and obviously money to be made in the women's game, and I really loathe the use of the word philanthropy. It's very much giving like infantilizing and like paternalism or whatever it is. Like, oh, I have to go in and save these poor girls. Meanwhile, Brisbane Roar are selling players to Wolfsburg. Melbourne City are selling players to San Diego Wave. And now we have Carly Johnson going to this new league in Canada. There's money here. I think you're just being a bit lazy. If you think you can't make anything out of it, don't put any money into it. There are plenty of people that believe in the women's game and have pockets deep enough and, minds expanded enough to realize. I mean, look at what Michelle Kang is doing. Not that I fully agree with that, but look at what she's doing. There's money there. You just don't care. You just don't actually care enough.
Yeah, so Peel also said, because there is a limited transfer market, I never had any chance to recoup any of that money, which at least I had a chance with the men's program. As you said, it's just laziness. There's money to be made there. The Mariners, if you want to make money, develop your talented players, of which there are plenty on the Central Coast, and sign them up for contracts that are like 2 years, 3 years. It's not hard.
Then they'll get bought out.
If you keep signing players on 1 year rotating deals every single year, well, yeah, this goes back to what happened previously, where clubs were just happy to wait 3 weeks, 4 weeks into their preseason. They're happy to wait a month into their season because they had 26 game seasons in the NSL, right? Not the NSL, the NWSL, the WSL. They've got longer seasons, so they could afford to wait. And now that we're actually pushing into May, by the time these contracts expire, these clubs can't afford to wait. Imagine what could be done with the idea of year-round contracts, where the clubs that could maybe afford to wait might actually not be able to wait until, the season ends or the transfer window opens in July or whatever it is, right? Like they could actually be pushing on this now, but to carry on, ACT Sports Minister Yvette Berry, who was one of the key driving forces behind the $200,000 emergency funding last year that saved the club for this season, did say that all options are on the table, which does include the club folding if it can't be funded for the 2025-26 season. Quote, none of us want that to happen. The other options are a potential A-League men's team that could take on the women's team, a new owner taking on the women's team on their own, or potentially Capital Football operating the program again, although Capital Football have conceded that the club is still operating at a loss and doesn't necessarily hold space on Capital Football's books to be able to continue to throw away funds. I use the term throw away loosely, but use funds to fund the A-League women's side from its members. It's a whole discussion to be had there, I guess, but it's just
The thing that keeps coming to my mind, especially with the continual delay of the men's side, is that, like, this is genuine, like, conspiracy theory. Like, we're bottom of the iceberg, the image, the one with all the conspiracy. Like, this is right at the very bottom. Like, this is deep sea. They're just waiting. There's an investor out there who's interested in the men's side and not the women's side and is waiting for the women's side to fold to then bring both of them in, but with a focus on the men's side and not the women's. That's what my conspiracy theory is. They don't want this mysterious they doesn't care about the women's side, so wants to see it fold, so they can bring out the men's team with the women's team tacked on the side, and it can be a brand new, fresh look club kind of thing. That's what my brain has been saying to me these past few days since reading this story and hearing about all this stuff with the delay again. But
I rate
I'm
that
fully
conspiracy
saying
theory.
it is conspiracy, like of the highest order. Bottom of the iceberg, like this is like the same sort of conspiracy as the swamp draining that they've got going on in the US. Not that there's any swamp to drain, but yeah, that's my theory.
I rate
That's
it.
my theory.
I
Thank you.
do genuinely rate it as a conspiracy theory, and I'd be lying if, because this has been going on for years now. This idea of this mythical Canberra team coming into the A-League men's, and I remember listening to an interview or a podcast or whatever it was a couple of years ago where there was this idea about bringing back the Canberra Cosmos branding and the colour scheme and everything like that, and it's like, you have a perfectly good colour scheme right here. You have a perfectly good identity right here. Don't mess with what's working. And yet, tying into your conspiracy there.
That's exactly what
The idea of
it is.
letting Canberra die so that you couldn't call them the Phoenix, but to use the long lost phrase, the Phoenix can rise from the ashes. Although, to be fair, having the Canberra Phoenix and the Wellington Phoenix in the same competition would be interesting, to say the least. A commentator's nightmare, if you will.
You could. There's already 100 different Uniteds. So, who's to say they couldn't reheat their nachos, as the children are saying these days, on the apps?
That is something I just learnt then, and I want to already unhear it. I gave you the option, and we put this off for long enough. The APL announced its annual Pride celebrations on Tuesday, the day that we are recording this podcast. So it will take place from the 14th to the 30th of March, headlined by Melbourne Victory and Adelaide United doubleheader at Amy Park on March 29, which has been the case for the last couple of years. It is the marquee fixture of the celebrations. It will cover round 23 and 24 of the A-League men and round 19, 20 and 21 of the A-League women, because there is a men's international break in the middle of it. The press release said, across the weekends, club will also celebrate Pride in their own way, including engaging community groups, rainbow corner flags, rainbow armbands, while some clubs will play in special bespoke kits. Sydney FC, thus far, are the only club to announce a Pride kit. Sorry, a Unity kit. Don't call it a Pride kit. It's a Unity kit. And so this goes back to the announcement of their Pride membership in an email on September 23, 2024. It was referred to as a Pride kit, and then in an email on February 11, ahead of its launch and reveal, it was referred to as a Unity kit ahead of its unveiling at Fair Day. In that same email, it was also referred to as a Pride Round Unity kit.
What are we doing?
What
are we doing? What the hell is a Unity kit? Sorry, am I going to get censored for that? What on earth is a Unity kit?
I mean, I've said hell enough times in this episode already.
You can use that line. Oh, what are we doing? Sydney FC, what are we doing? Also, another conspiracy theory, they've specifically chosen this time because of the men's international break, so the men's side doesn't have to do as much. I'm so on it with the conspiracy theories. Can you tell I've hardly slept? My brain
I was just expecting to.
My brain is on such a higher wavelength.
I'm just expecting to make an unexpected and unannounced visit to your house and see like the like the Pepe Sylvia, just like a sort of like a dartboard just in your room, just with
Yeah.
conspiracy theories everywhere, and it's all
I'm
linked.
I'm gonna show up to the next episode wearing a literal tinfoil hat. I might have to at this point. Yeah, what? Sydney, why? Why are you the way that you are?
So this whole situation goes back to, I said, the email on September 23, 2024. That was when they announced their Pride membership. It was an email sent out to everyone on their mailing list with the option to sign up for the Pride membership, which was an additional cost, standalone membership. Didn't need to be a member of the club to purchase it. And then, like in that, if you became a part of this Pride membership, you then got access to a few different things. There was extra membership credits that could be used to purchase Pride specific merchandise. There was also a Pride event that was held in Sydney that was put on by the club, which I attended, and I did purchase the membership. I did attend it, and it was a decent night. There's a lot of there's a couple of presentations. There was some question and answers with CEO Mark Aubrey, and other guests that were there on the night. And it was a reasonable event. And then a day later, the content creator, I think probably the best way to describe him, named Spanion, put out that Sydney FC had gifted him a kit. He turned up to the men's derby a couple of weeks prior in an old kit, and someone saw it and said, "Oh, we'll give you a new kit." So they're wearing the new kit. Try to sell a couple more kits to his audience, I guess. There's just one problem with that. This is a content creator who, calling it a controversial history might be kind. Has had a lot of racist, homophobic, um, you know, views and the like. And the club, Sydney FC, when pressed for comment by myself at the time, I sent multiple emails, did not respond to any request for comment. There were Pride members who did ring the club and were not given an explanation as to why the club just sort of hoped that it would go away. I'm guessing, but that seems to be the general vibe of what happened here. Is that it's just okay? Can this go away with you know? And it's just sort of been one bungle after another with this. And look, I purchased the kit in pre-order as my Pride member, and the kit, at least when I checked this afternoon, has to its general public release, it almost sold out in basically every single size. And it's not a bad kit by any stretch of the imagination. It's a decent looking kit, although I did have my friend describe it to me, as I will pull it up here so I make sure I quote them properly. Where did I put it? I like the subtle look. Unfortunately, it's giving just came out of the closet subtlety vibes, which I think says a lot about this kit. But it is a nice kit. I will fully admit. And, I purchased it, and I hate myself for purchasing it because I know it's rainbow washing, it's rainbow capitalism, and nothing anyone puts out in a press release can make me say or feel otherwise, because you don't get to tell queer people how to feel, and if queer people are telling you you've done something wrong, then maybe you should listen back.
You've done something wrong. Um, yeah, this whole entire situation, it's kind of impressive that they've managed to fumble this so hard and so consistently. I fear they're watching this, the players are watching this and are seeing and are thinking, man, I wish we were this consistently good on the field as you guys are consistently bad off. Well, if for an update, the women's Unity jersey, as they're calling it, is sold out in every size other than XS and S. The men's, let's see. Oh, that's the youth. There's a youth size. Do they not have a?
Oh, they have
Oh,
a men's size, unless they've taken it offline.
it's not on their website. The top two kits are just the women's and a youth option, and then it's just
So it appears they have taken the option for the men's club off the website, which seemingly would indicate sold out in every single size. I'm guessing. Which, I mean, good for the club. They've clearly sold what they hoped to sell. Um,
yeah,
although to be fair, I'd ask at that case if it's sold out in less than 10 hours as to whether they had adequate stock to start with. But that's another
yeah.
story for another
That
day.
is another.
Conspiracy theory. Don't
Yeah,
don't you can't sell what's not in stock, so don't order enough stock to start with.
don't start
Um,
me. Don't start me. I'm 2 for 2 on conspiracy theories. I don't need another. Let's not too much more on conspiracy theories, please. Uh, yeah, I hope the other clubs start rolling out some stuff. They usually do. Like there's usually stuff from the other clubs, but
So yeah, Wellington sold a kit last year. They sold both the goalkeeper and outfield version that they wore. I proudly own both of those jerseys. I own Adelaide United goalkeeper jersey. Um, Melbourne Victory. I don't remember if they put a kit out per se. I know they had a training, like a warm up kit, which
yeah,
was not intended to be a warm up kit. That I don't know if that's an exclusive or not, but I can tell you that was
yeah,
not intended to be a warm up kit.
no,
I can't I can't tell you the story, but there
I
is a
do know
story
this
there.
one.
There is a story. I can tell you that. But yeah, so that was not supposed to happen. But yeah, so and then I believe Perth did rainbow numbering on the back of their jersey. I know Canberra did
Hmm.
rainbow numbering on the back of their jersey, and other clubs had other celebrations throughout. So hopefully we see more clubs with jerseys this year. That is something I would very, very much like to see. Um, and my bank account does not, but my bank account does what I tell it to do. And if I say purchase jerseys, it purchases jerseys. But I think that, okay, I know there's a lot of stuff that we did need to talk about in the general footballing sense, but so much has happened that I've completely forgotten to make note of it in the rundown. So let's look ahead to round 17, Burke. Central Coast Mariners and the Western Sydney Wanderers at 4:50 p.m. on a Friday afternoon outside of school holidays. What are we doing?
Boo, boo, tomato, tomato, tomato. I'm throwing tomatoes. Boo!
Uh,
Stop doing
Ca-
this.
yes.
Hmm.
Canberra play Melbourne City, Newcastle play Perth, and Western United play Melbourne Victory. Those are all on Saturday afternoon at varying times. Check your local scheduling. Wellington and Adelaide play at 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time on Sunday at Pararua Park, and then Sydney and Brisbane close out the round at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time on Sunday. Burke, which of those fixtures are you looking forward to the most?
I think most of these are going to be pretty good. I think Sydney versus Brisbane is going to be interesting because Sydney are bad and Brisbane are not having a good time right now. Although they did just sign a contract extension for Momo Hayashi, so that slays. Good for them. Even their terrible form can't keep Momo away. Yeah, I think that game will be interesting. Will Brisbane actually be able to pull it together? Or will Sydney find something? I doubt Sydney's going to find something, but I really doubt that Brisbane are going to get it together. I don't know, maybe the extra week will help them.
For me, I think I'm most excited to see. I want to see Western United and Melbourne Victory. I want to
Yeah.
see which of these sides can. I, it seems harsh to say prove that they're serious when you've got 2 and 4 on the ladder, but which of these sides can push Melbourne City, essentially? Western United in fourth on 26 points, Melbourne Victory in second on 32 points. So you'd think if it was going to be any of these clubs, it was going to be Melbourne City that pushes their crosstown rivals the most. But, just who wants to push for that second spot, essentially, is can you create some separation or, or the like. So I think it's 2 top 4 sides, and I think this is going to make for great entertainment. And it's actually taking place at a decent time at 6 p.m. on a Saturday night. So hopefully cool weather, which will which should equal good football, Burke.
Honestly, who can say with the Melbourne weather these days? It has been a nightmare living here. It's so hot. And then one day, when was it? Was it on Sunday? It was so hot, and then it randomly started pouring with rain, and then it just remained hot. It was ridiculous. I'm also hoping for cool weather because I'm tired of this. Let it end. No more. Bring on autumn or just something else.
Well, the good news is you've only got a couple of days to wait until we're technically in autumn. Whether that brings a cool
Yay!
change with it is anyone's guess. Our last listener question of the episode also comes from the YouTube comment section. Again, we thank everyone for their comments, but the two we've picked out here feel best emphasize, sort of discussion topics as a whole. So, Alan O'Keefe, 104, says, I see massive parallels between where the Matildas are now and the Socceroos in 2012-13 before Ange took charge. So basically they need someone of that ilk to have the balls to get rid of a few of the golden generation and have an actual football philosophy, not give the ball to Kerr and hope for the best. If a world-class coach was knocking down the door to take charge, they'd have one by now. Not sure it's an attractive option as people think to coach this slot. Now onto the game. Is it surprising that Matildas can't play around a press? I remember watching the World Cup quarter-final against France and seeing them lose possession time and time again, and it was just luck France didn't have their shooting boots on. England and Sweden just bullied them in the two games that followed, with both winning easily. This team just isn't what they are made out to be. I can't say I disagree with any of that, Burke.
I was just going to say, I don't agree. I think the team is what they're made out to be. And I think they had a really, really good World Cup run. And if France didn't have their shooting boots on, then that's too bad for them. There's many ways to win a game and to win a following, and the Matildas have done it everywhere, in every way. They've done it hard, they've done it easy, they're doing it hard right now. But I think the other thing is that soccer, isn't huge here, especially on an international stage, like following it internationally. The Socceroos always have been there, but we have never had anything like the Matildas before on an international scale as a team. And maybe we should have in like other sports, but we've had them and we've had them here in Australia. I think they're exactly what they're made out to be. We have really good players. We wouldn't have players playing for teams like Arsenal or Chelsea or Manchester City if they weren't good players. We wouldn't have players in our own domestic league being bought by clubs like Wolfsburg if they weren't up to scratch. You don't waste six figures on someone you don't actually want, especially in the women's game. So, yeah. Although I will say I agree with the not being able to play around a press, because I did actually mention that earlier. So don't think I'm just like immediately shirt fronting you or whatever, being like, no, I don't agree. I think we do have a football philosophy. I think we just have lost focus of it, given everything else that's happening around us, and it's a lot easier to ignore a philosophy when you don't have a stable sort of situation around you, given head coach and the other issues that they're having right now with getting paid. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, there is an Australian footballing philosophy that we all know and loathe. I can't say we love it because we don't. Hoof it long to the toilet and hope for the best. Although, to be fair, I would like to see the death of that particular philosophy. An alternative that you could do, as I quickly cover my tracks for something we forgot to mention, is just play football with Sienna Silvesca in your side, who has been absolutely ripping it up in Canberra for the last week or so in the Pacific Australia Four Nations tournament. 9-0 against Vanuatu. Solomon Islands was 12-0 on match day 2. and earlier today, at the time of recording, 5-2 win over Thailand's under-20s side, who were the other under-20 side in this tournament, along with the Matildas, the senior sides for both Vanuatu and the Solomon Islands. And Sienna Silvestre, hat-trick tonight against Thailand, but has also been just ripping it up throughout the tournament, back.
Yeah, she's gonna be something big for us. I know. I know. Yeah, she is just something else. I'm very excited to see her in the future. Hopefully on a senior national scale, obviously. This is junior national, whatever.
Yeah, so very well done to the young Matildas in Canberra. If you're wondering why we're not talking too much about it, look, I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched a ton of this tournament, unfortunately. Time has gotten in the way. And seemingly no one could watch the first half of the game against Vanuatu. Burke.
I was trying. I was really trying, but that YouTube stream would not string together more than 3 seconds at a time. Dare I say, the only place on earth that has worse internet than me. So,
Look, I'm not going to lie. When I saw you put that post out, I was half tempted to reply in a smart Alex sort of way. It's like, are you sure it's just not your internet again, Burke? And then I
no,
saw
it
two other
wasn't.
people tweet that they had issues, and I'm just like, okay, I'll put that one back in the holster. Save it
Yeah,
for
you
another
can
time.
keep that one in your back pocket. I did actually wait until I'd seen other people complaining before I complained because I was concerned that it was just me. So, but it was not. Everyone was having a bad time. Not the young Matildas. They were having a great time. And
They
long may it
were,
continue.
yes, they were indeed, and long may it continue as they prepare for their upcoming Asian Cup, with this being the first games they've played in preparation for that tournament. But that will do for this episode of the Dubcast, part of the Round Ball Australia podcasting network. Burke, thank you as always.
Thank you again for having me on. It's always a
Uh,
good time here.
it is, as long as we're not ranting and raving. Actually, you know
And
what? I want to finish on a negative just because I can. An airing of the grievances. Why? I'd love to know if this was a directive from a producer or not, as to why the Channel 10 broadcast of the USA game felt the need to continuously refer to Lynn Biondolo by her maiden name. I was getting ready to start throwing stuff at my computer because I was so frustrated,
yeah,
Burke.
I unfortunately again was working during that game, so I had my stream on mute when I could check it. So I did not know that, but I don't like that either. I'm not a big fan of people changing their names when they get married, but if they do, you should definitely respect that. And it's not like it's a hard name to say, it's phonetic, it's Biondolo. Not a difficult one.
Yes.
No good.
Yeah, I thought, okay, I might have a little bit too personal of a connection to this as someone who has changed their name. But, I mean, look, mention it once, that's all we need. And if anyone has missed out, then, well, they can get the Google machine out and search Lynn Biondolo, and they'll very quickly find out who it is. W League legend, because she played when it was the W League legend, Lynn Biondolo, indeed. Yeah, but that'll do for this episode of the Dubcast. We'll be back tomorrow, to recap the Colombia game in the immediate aftermath, a YouTube exclusive for that one, so that won't be in your podcast feeds, just like the other two YouTube exclusives as well. But we'll be back for our regularly scheduled podcast next Wednesday, as always. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.